The blue flame on Bazz-B's castle, that's a really awesome touch. Okay, this looks great. Ladies and gentlemen, Bleach fans around the world, it's that time once again. Today's episode of the 1000-Year Blood War arc, simply titled Friend, promises to be something quite special, I think. As Bazz-B confronts Haschwalth, we're given a glimpse into their story from 1,000 years ago. Yhwach is busy conquering the human world with his ruthless Lichtreich empire, and we even see, sort of, the origins of the sternritter. As a big fan of the Quincy and the Vandenreich in general, needless to say, I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm hopeful that we might get some other sternritter cameos, but that remains to be seen. For a while, we expected this episode to be part 1 of the usual 2-part finale. However, as discussed in the video I released yesterday, we're actually getting an additional episode this core, meaning 38 is the only episode releasing this week. Next Saturday, we'll see the release of episodes 39 and 40 at the same time, bringing part 3 to a close. Anyway, let's get on with this reaction and enjoy the episode together. As always, I'll be watching this episode from the perspective of someone who has read the 1000-Year Blood War arc in its entirety, so expect potential spoilers in the video to come. Also, if you enjoyed today's video, when you're done with it, make sure to hit subscribe now. It really helps support the channel and help push us towards that 300,000 subscriber goal. Anyway, with all of that out of the way, let's get on with this. Episode 38 of the 1000-Year Blood War arc, titled Friend. Okay, and immediately my predictions from yesterday have been disproved, unsurprisingly. But no Izuru scene. That's kind of fascinating to me. The scenery, by the way, looks absolutely beautiful here, and the lighting is really nice as well. But if the Izuru scene isn't taking place immediately after the Kyoraku battle, like it does in the manga, then I wonder if it's been moved or if it's been removed entirely. I imagine it's still in here, it's probably just been moved, but not having it straight after the Kyoraku fight is an interesting choice. Also, I think this is the first time we ever see Bazz-B with his crossbow in the anime, whereas in the, wow, we're already on the opening, whereas in the manga he uses his crossbow in the kind of skirmish showdown with the Gotei 13, but that was cut here, so I think this is the first time we've seen him use it. I could be mistaken though. But yeah, interesting, they've seemingly, I think, probably moved the Izuru scene. I would be really surprised if it was cut, to be honest, though I did speculate that a little while back, but yeah, instantly my predictions are wrong. That's making me wonder how much else I'm wrong about now. Probably everything. Okay, and so we are back here now with Bazz-B and Haschwalth. From the end of episode 36, I think it was, wasn't it? Okay, immediately into the fight, Bazz-B rushing in, that looks really awesome. I mean, this was always a really cool little sequence in the manga as well, the way Haschwalth just kind of acrobatically leaps around Bazz-B, but Bazz-B grabbing onto the hilt of the sword is really cool to then use Burner Finger. That's a great little showdown. Haschwalth's voice is so deep. It's really cool, but I do sometimes think, like, does it fit his face? Interesting, so Bazz-B mentions the Owls of Aelin, everyone being wiped out down below. We don't get to see that shown in a flashback or anything like it was in the original chapter, so, I mean, Robert and his fate have been completely scrubbed from the anime entirely, which, you know, is a little bit of a shame, but alas. Maybe he'll show up in the flashback today. That's cool, seeing Bazz-B using Burner Finger 2 like that, the contrast of the white-hot orange flame against the kind of sinister pale purple backdrop looks really good. Damn, how fast is the sun moving behind them to be getting the shadows going like that? That's a cool effect, though. I like it passing over their faces as it closes in. That's really cool. Haschwalth as well. The blue flame on Bazz-B's castle. That's a really awesome touch. Okay, this looks great. I mean, this looks fantastically good so far. So that's Bazz-B obviously swinging at him with Burner Finger 2, Haschwalth running across the ceiling somehow. I mean, that's a really awesome little showdown. But back in the flashback, I mean, this scenery looks stunningly good. Extremely detailed. The child voice actors are very good as well. I mean, Bazz-B's sounds quite similar to the adult version, which is pretty cool. Haschwalth's sounds suitably listless. How does this voice turn into Haschwalth's when he's older? Is it just me, or does this look really good? I'm assuming this is going to be pretty faithful to the manga, I think. We might get some added scenes here and there, because it is only 4 chapters long, and if they're going to fill the entire episode with it, they might want to flesh it out a little bit, perhaps. But Haschwalth with the telltale bruises all over his arms. Yeah, so remember, this is 1,000 years ago, so even though their outfits are probably a little too modern, it is supposed to be essentially like, I guess, medieval times or something like that. So Bazz-B lives in a fancy castle, and Haschwalth is more of a peasant, I think, was the idea. And of course, he's given him, as he leaves now, back to the castle looking pretty fancy, by the way. He's given Haschwalth the emblem with the black family insignia on it. Of course, this is the arrival of Haschwalth's creepy uncle. Interesting, the voice actor, he kind of sounds drunk, which I guess makes a lot of sense. He's, beating and abusing Haschwalth. Burner Finger 3, at last. The first time we've actually seen it. Well, that's cool, that's new. The first time we've seen it in the anime, Haschwalth blocking it, essentially, with his sword was a really cool little visual. The detailing is incredible. I mean, these shots of their eyes are so nice. The fire burning inside them. The blue flame on Bazz-B's castle. What a great touch that is. Wow, and you can hear the screams of presumably his family getting killed. Is this... Whoa! Whoa, we're seeing them attacking the Black Family castle? That was Zedritz with a couple of pistols? Unnamed Quincy Gun Girl just apparently sniped, I don't know, was that Bazz-B's mother or something? Yhwach then unleashing a Sankt Borgen from above. Bazz-B and his, I guess, mother or minder or something just fell out of the window and he, landed on her body. Presumably, that saved him, essentially. It's cool to see the unnamed Quincy Gun Girl again. That's a nice bit of, essentially anime-only continuity. But this is brand new, actually seeing the attack, the fall of Castle Black, I guess, essentially. That's cool, though, seeing Yhwach riding past like that. That's really awesome. And this is kind of fascinating as well, because it kind of shows that they are now leaving the scene. So he kind of just rode through and decimated the castle for, no reason other than he didn't want any kind of competition. Anyone else potentially lording it about. That was awesome. Actually seeing, Hubert, Argola, Zedritz, and the Quincy girl attacking people with their more modern weaponry. I mean, they didn't stand a chance. Zedritz definitely was popping people with a pair of handguns, very similarly to Robert, gotta be honest. This is all new, going through the ruins of the castle. That's cool, the sword that Haschwalth eventually uses. It has an origin story. He picks it up from Bazz-B's. Oh, I like that. That's really nice detail. I mean, again, that's brand new. Actually showing us where Haschwalth got his sword from, and of course it was from Bazz-B's family's castle. I mean, that's really cool. Soundscape to our door, 2 episodes in a row. So this was always a really good little sequence of chapters with some great characterization for these two Quincy. The idea that Bazz-B is kind of forcing Haschwalth along in his quest for revenge, because Haschwalth actually bears no ill will towards Yhwach, really, because his abusive uncle, was killed in the fire that Yhwach started. So in a sense, he's kind of grateful to him, but he's obviously not showing that on the outside. But Bazz-B's kind of stringing him along because he's very much in charge of the two of them. Yeah, so Yhwach saying they're going to conquer the Soul Society is cool. Zedritz being like, what? And of course, this leads into the war from 1,000 years ago. This is essentially the creation of the sternritter. So yeah, Haschwalth has no talent as a Quincy. He can't collect reishi, which really means that he's probably not going to have a Quincy Volstendish, unless the anime changes something significantly a little bit later on down the line. I really think this looks absolutely incredible so far. I mean, visually, this is really astonishingly good. Every frame is like a painting or something. It's beautiful. The snowy season coming in, that's cool as well. That's very pretty with the sun coming through the trees like that. So yeah, again, great characterization, because you get this sense that Bazz-B thinks he's doing Haschwalth a massive favour. He's like some great genius, and I'm going to let Haschwalth tag along with me, even though he's not really any help whatsoever. And that, of course, feeds into the resentment, the massive resentment and jealousy that Bazz-B ends up feeling. So this is the arrival of Hubert and Argola. That's cool as well. Argola slamming the flag down, and it now has the sternritter emblem, which essentially becomes the Vandenreich emblem later on. Oh, there's Zedritz and the gun girl again. Now Zedritz is wearing like a green outfit. That looks really badass, I'm not gonna lie. Zedritz looks kind of awesome. I mean, all of the Quincy outfits look fantastically good. Hubert looks really cool as well. So considering Hubert is later the vice captain of the Sternritter, right now is he essentially Yhwach's number 2? Although it kind of seems like Zedritz is, so I do kind of wonder what position Zedritz has. The green outfit is actually pretty neat, I'm not going to lie. So far, I mean, this is all playing out very similarly to the manga right now. I can't believe we got that new sequence of Bazz-B's castle actually being sacked by Yhwach and his men. That was brutal. The gun girl Quincy looks pretty cool. That rifle is very imposing. And then Hubert's like, I'm just going to use a sword. So I do wonder if Yhwach then... I think maybe we theorised this before in episode 24 when we had that last flashback featuring these guys. The Reiatsu effect looks so good. That massively overpowering Reiatsu that forces Bazz-B to the ground. They're taking as well panels straight from the manga here that looks so awesome. Yhwach just crushing everyone, bringing them all to the ground is such a cool visual. Yeah, I think we were speculating back when we had the last flashback in episode 24 that Yhwach perhaps used the Almighty to see the future, and that's where he came up with these more modern-day weapons, and that's presumably how his army is subjugating the world so easily. Obviously, he's massively powerful himself as well, but the Reiatsu effect, that's pretty cool. That looks really good, actually. But of course, he comes to a stop in front of Haschwalth. The music's ramping up here. So this is essentially now, we're about halfway through the Friend arc already. Oh, and look at that! Perfect timing! We've now got the key cards, so we're probably about halfway through the episode. Wow. I mean, there is a lot to cover, because obviously the Friend chapters are quite dialogue heavy. The fight between Bazz-B and Haschwalth really is secondary. You know, it's just a conduit to get this flashback. It's cool, of course, seeing the slightly older looking buildings as well. Although I would argue probably still slightly too modern for 1,000 years ago. Although, I have no idea really, so... There's no denying that whenever the anime gives us, you know, essentially, I guess, normal lighting like this, it really does look absolutely stunning. And there is a part of me that wishes I'd seen the entire anime in this kind of colour scheme. But yeah, like, I love all of this stuff. Like, Bazz-B, again, thinking that he's doing Haschwalth a favour. They're on even footing. They're on the equal ground. But in reality, he thinks he's better. He thinks that, in the end, Haschwalth is kind of just slowing him down. And if anyone's going to be picked to be Yhwach's right-hand man, it would obviously be him. And this is his revenge, after all. All of a sudden, when the stakes get real, essentially, it all becomes about Bazz-B, even though he's been preaching it's about the two of them this whole time. I love they showed where his sword came from. What a cool detail. This does all look really fantastic. I mean, this is awesome. I love the little detail of Haschwalth backing away from Yhwach as he approaches him. Like, instinctively almost, that's really cool. Yhwach looks kind of awesome there, I'm not going to lie. Oh yeah, see, there's the preview shot, so it did come past the halfway mark. I love the fact that Yhwach is like 2.5 times as tall as Haschwalth in this scene. So, you know, Yhwach does say there, you know, I gained my power by learning how to give power and then taking it back. Obviously, this is everything that's discussed in God Like You. So maybe over the years, with Yhwach's tutelage, Haschwalth has learned how to do that, so perhaps he does have more traditional Quincy powers under his belt now, but, I mean, we certainly never saw it in the manga, but maybe in the anime it'll be expanded on his future fight, I guess, and we'll actually get to see it. That devastating darkness and the distance between Bazz-B and Haschwalth there, that's very cool imagery. That's cool, Bazz-B rising up to take out Yhwach and just kind of summoning his bow like that is really awesome, but of course... Oh, man. Devastating betrayal. Oh, and it swaps back to the present day. Haschwalth has caught Bazz-B's arrow there as well. The fire disperses. That is a very, very nice depiction of that sequence. And then, of course, Haschwalth essentially extinguishes the flame with a flick of his sword. We haven't seen anything from the Bambis yet, which is interesting, so I've got to assume that's going to be next week. Burner Finger 4 as well now. Haschwalth is just completely unfazed. Like, it is kind of funny how initially, when the fight begins, they do... Okay, hearing him shout Bazard Black, that's cool stuff. It's interesting at the start of the fight how they do seem to be on slightly more even footing, but as it just goes along, Bazz-B just gets completely destroyed, basically. And so now this sequence, where Bazz-B is a little bit older still, well, both of them are, must be really, really close to the War of the Soul Society, I would think. Okay, yeah, so we've still got... These sequences are exactly the same as the manga, where Hubert kind of throws some shade at Haschwalth for not really commanding Bazz-B's respect. But then I like the way he claps back by calling him the Lieutenant Commander. Also, their castle looks absolutely idyllic. This is a great example of Yhwach basically just bringing doom upon his own people for no real reason other than his own desire, I guess, for revenge himself. But they've got a lovely setup here, and they just lose it all. Oh, that's cool. So now, the sternritter must be... Are there sternritter going to be here? It doesn't look like it. In fact, this looks kind of weird because every Quincy here looks basically exactly the same, apart from Bazz-B, who stands out like a sore thumb. Okay. But it's cool how they had the emblem of the sternritter, what would become the Vandenreich emblem, so now everyone must be kind of prepped and ready to go, I imagine. Well, that's the shot from the opening, of Bazz-B kind of flying towards Haschwalth like that. This looks so good! And then Bazz-B's arm comes off, takes out the building behind it, the pillar behind it. I mean, Haschwalth is just on a completely different level. And I like that it keeps showing that Haschwalth is out of Bazz-B's reach, essentially. Burning Full Fingers looks amazing! That's so cool! He just brings them forward like that and blasts a massive vortex of fire, but... That's a lot of blood. And I mean, that just looks absolutely insanely good. This is art. You know, if I was Rose right now, I'd be pontificating on how artful this is, because this just looks incredible. Bazz-B clutching at Haschwalth's coat, singeing it ever so slightly, but that's really all he can muster. I mean, this looks absolutely stunning. This was one of Kubo's patented, you know, emotional sequences in the manga where he uses a ton of panels. Bazz-B looks absolutely incredible there, where he uses a ton of panels to convey the most delicate of movements, and here it's just, I mean, it looks great. It looks brilliantly good. Look at that, he's just coldly walking away, the deed is done. He's chosen his side. That's cool that they're replaying the voices over the top like that. I mean, Haschwalth obviously does look kind of devastated to have to do this, and we do know that later on, he does kind of feel that regret. Wow, friend with end in red like that. Very cool, that's really good stuff. Yeah, that's the end. So I was right about where the episode would finish up. I mean, it was beautiful. Again, I think that deserves a round of applause. I mean, that was beautiful stuff. I mean, the artistry on display throughout the entire thing was absolutely fantastic. But I mean, that final sequence, that where Bazz-B is staggering, bleeding out, and then just collapses, was really, really well done. So, no sternritter cameos. A little bit disappointing, but not that big of a deal, really. The story was obviously about Bazz-B and Haschwalth, and I mean, they knocked it out of the park. And getting that extra sequence where they sacked Bazz-B's castle was very cool. Like, I mean, that was so awesome. That was crazy stuff. So, I mean, judging by the amount of time, I mean, there's no extra scene. Wow, I mean, that was really, really, really good. Really, really good. It's kind of unbelievable how good some of these episodes are actually looking, like, week in, week out. To the point where, like, I don't have enough words in my vocabulary. So, Haschwalth is the poem for next week, I believe. This is the poem from volume 70. That's cool. That is cool. Bleach 39, The Visible Answer. So The Visible Answer being the episode title, I mean, that's an interesting choice. Because That potentially means I was right. But we'll have to see. I mean, we'll have to see, because the visible answer is, well, it's all about Uryu revealing his true nature to Ichigo and the others. So, I mean, maybe the core is going to go further ahead than I thought it was. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. That's really quite intriguing, though. That's interesting. But it does seem like they are going to tie that into the end of Friend, into Haschwalth's current, probably pretty bad state of mind. Yeah, that's cool. But I mean, focusing on the episode here and now, I mean, it just looked amazing. It looked amazing. They captured the emotion. They captured the energy perfectly. Really, really cool to see the true tyranny of Yhwach as he and his men are laying waste to the human world 1,000 years ago. That's just awesome stuff. Cool, of course, to see, you know, the gangs all here. Hubert, Argola, Zedritz, and this Quincy Gun Girl. Really cool to get that character back again. And she's a menace. I mean, she's a menace. She basically just sniped, I assume, Bazz-B's mother or guardian or whoever that was. Took her head right off. I mean, I'm gonna go back and rewatch that sacking scene, because that was probably the craziest part of the episode for me. And then the fact that, I mean, there's just multiple details that I loved here. The blue fire being used to torch Bazz-B's home is such a cool little detail. The fact that Haschwalth took his sword from Bazz-B's castle, I mean, that's so cool. Yeah, so Hubert is slicing people up. Argola has a pair of hand axes. Zedritz has a pair of pistols. Again, very Robert-coded. But then this Quincy Gun Girl just kind of turns around and she shoots someone behind her and then, yes, snipes through the window. I mean, that's crazy stuff. And then I love the visual. Oh my god, the visual of Sankt Borgen with the kind of Aurora Borealis in the sky. As it just lays waste to Bazz-B's castle. And the little detail that he and his minder fall out of the tower and he lands on her body, and that's presumably what saves his life. I mean, the team behind the anime know how to cook up a great shot. You know, those 4 Quincy on the horses, the 4 horsemen, maybe you could say, riding out of the castle with the blue fire behind them is great, followed by Yhwach looking really pretty cool, actually. Yeah, that's just good stuff. That's just good stuff. Yeah, really, really awesome. So yeah, I mean, that is the Friend Saga done. It's done in one episode, and I feel alright about that, because I'm very curious about where the anime goes for the 2-part finale next week. I'm interested again by the fact that there was no Izuru scene, but I mean, that was just really fantastic. I don't really know what else to say, to be honest. It looked absolutely wonderful. Yeah, really, really, I mean, they did the Friend Saga so much justice there, and that was so cool to see. But yeah, I think that about does it for our episode 38 live reaction. I'll collect my thoughts as always and try and get them to you as soon as I can. Obviously, it's Christmas next week, so I'm going to try and get it out before that. It should be doable, but I guess we'll find out. But yeah, let me know, of course, your thoughts down in the comments below. Did you enjoy episode 38 of the 1,000 Year Blood War arc titled Friend, that gave us the frankly tragic backstory between Haschwalth and Bazz-B? I'd love to hear all of your thoughts down in the comments below. I mean, this episode looked absolutely stunning. Every frame was pretty much picture perfect and just looked absolutely wonderful. So, yeah, I mean, I take my proverbial hat off to the team, because, again, I think they've really, really outdone themselves. 2 episodes in a row now have been some of the most visually stunning in the entirety of the 1,000 Year Blood War arc. Honestly, the more I think about this episode, the more I think this might actually be one of the best of the series. Is it too early to say that? I'm not entirely sure, but the emotional beats were there. It looked like a movie. It was so beautiful in basically every way. I loved the new scenes. What new scenes we actually got, seeing the castle get destroyed, seeing Haschwalth picking up the sword. Really nice stuff. And then, of course, intermingling that with the battle in the present day, and that final sequence where Bazz-B gave it his all to do Burning Full Fingers, which just looked absolutely incredible. A tempest of brilliant orange, but then he gets cut down, and it's like, I mean, you know, the biggest praise I feel like I can always give it is that Kubo's artwork has been lifted from the page and brought to life in stunning fashion, and that's really what it felt like here. I mean, just, yeah, really, really great. Really cool. But yeah, I mean, that's it from me, guys. I'm just going to keep rambling on and on otherwise. So do let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Did you enjoy this week's episode? What was your favourite moment? And what are you expecting to see from episode 39 titled The Visible Answer? Very interesting indeed. If you haven't yet watched my predictions video, where we go over what I think is going to happen in the next 3 episodes, so this episode and then the 2 after it, make sure to go and do that now. Spoiler, we were virtually spot on with episode 38, but that was also the easiest one to guess. So yeah, I'd love to hear all of your thoughts about all of this down in the comments below. Okay guys, thank you again so very much for watching. As always, I want to end this video by saying a massive thank you and giving a huge shout out to my wonderful supporters over on Patreon. I really do appreciate your support. And if you want to support me over on Patreon as well, thank you so very much. At the $1 tier a month, you can get your name in the credits of every single video just like this. And at the $2 tier or higher, you can enjoy every video of mine absolutely free of baked-in YouTube ads. Okay, everyone, thank you again so very much for watching. Until next time, I'll catch you later, and I'll see you then.